Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. For those of you who are unaware, Arknights Endfield came out about a day ago now, and I'm gonna be completely honest, other than sleeping, it's about the only thing I've done since then. So basically, I just kinda wanted to share my first impressions with all of you today regarding the game. Now, this is not gonna be anything super, formulaic or organized, more so just kind of dumping all my thoughts so far to help out those of you who are on the fence about trying the game. Anyways, before we jump in, to anyone new here, hello, I'm Vav. I'm pretty experienced with gacha games, my longest commitment so far being 6 years with Azur Lane, but I've also been playing Genshin, Zenless, and Star Rail since launch, Princess Connect for 4 years, Blue Archive for 2 years, and most recently I picked up Wuthering Waves a few months ago, and have been sharing my experience with that here on YouTube, plus a number of other gachas that I've picked up and dropped along the way. All that is to say, basically, I think my opinion here can hold at least a little bit of weight. Now, final thing before we start. I went into this game 100% blind. Since I didn't earn any of the beta accesses, I entirely avoided any gameplay or content related to this game so I could get the full experience on launch. And so because of this, some of the things I bring up, mostly the speculative stuff, could be already answered by more playtime that I've just not reached yet. Anyways, with all that being said, let's get right into it. So when judging a gacha game like this one, there are 5 main things that I, and probably most people, look at. Characters, story, world, gameplay, and of course, gacha/monetization. So that's the main criteria I'll be using today, starting off with the characters. The cast of characters so far in this game is pretty great. It's a very diverse roster with tons of unique designs in it. Every character has some sort of animal feature, from full-on lizard people to dragon girls to Umamusume. Also, anyone who played the original Arknights may notice some returning faces. Personally, I never got into it, so I won't dwell on this point too much, but I'm sure those of you who did can appreciate that. Ultimately, character design is subjective, and you can look at the roster yourself to see how you feel, but I do believe that there are enough unique designs for pretty much everyone to pick out at least 1 or 2 favorites. As for the 3D models themselves, they look great. I'll touch more on graphics overall when we move on to the world, but the individual models are nicely detailed and super expressive. Definitely my favorite part of the models in this game so far. The facial expressions and the way they move themselves, both inside of dialogues and just random open world interactions, is awesome. I love it. Aside from the slightly jank, generic sprint animation, each character's battle animation also reflects their unique fighting style, while also carrying a lot of weight in their attacks, making for super satisfying feedback when you attack. Even the caster classes manage to have beefy attack animations and sound design. Emphasis on sound design, I feel like the sound helps elevate the feel of the animations a ton. On the topic of sound, the voice acting for these characters is, well, I might be a little bit biased here. Oh my god, is that who I think it is? If that's who I think it is, this character's gonna be my main. Oh, that totally is who I think it is. Where might I find that? Oh, bottom left. Hey! Anyways, personal bias aside, the voice acting so far hasn't been anything too crazy, fairly standard gacha voicing so far. Not bad, but nothing that is really particularly stuck out to me, of course aside from my goat Perlika. For all my English dub enjoyers, the only thing I really saw so far was just from watching my friend play, and we did notice that a lot of the characters actually have pretty thick accents, and upon doing some research we even found that one of the characters is voiced by an Italian dub actor who they just happened to have on to do English for this game. I'm usually always using Japanese in these kind of games, but so far the only game that even came close to making me swap to English was Wuthering Waves, due to the cool regional accents in the English dub, so this game having that as well, I'm sure will make a lot of dub fans happy. Moving past characters, let's talk about the story now. It's not great. Without getting into any spoilers, it follows a pretty generic gacha storyline of waking up without any memories, but you're actually a super important, powerful person, and they use this to heavy expedition dump on you before getting into the story where evil bad guy does evil bad things to you, the good guy. The antagonistic faction hasn't been very interesting so far. Their motives or even their designs are just kind of bland. Well, aside from one character. Those of you who know, I was looking incredibly disrespectfully, but I won't say any more. Also, the presentation of the story was pretty weak. The way they showed stuff felt like original Genshin or Star Rail, where they do like a panoramic shot showing everyone in the conversation, and then the camera will just focus on the speaker while they do their default speaking pose until they're done talking. Which is weird, because at the start when you first wake up, Perlika is very animated talking to you, and the game is heavier on using cutscenes to give a stronger presentation, but they pretty much immediately diverge from this in favor of just generic dialogues. On top of this, they kept interrupting the flow of the main story with filler quests that basically served as tutorials for the factory system. I get why they have them, but I think they would benefit greatly from a tutorial quest subclassification and just taking these quests out of the main story, because it's very jarring to go from what are the enemy's motives for attacking me, how do they know this about me, where will they strike next, to arrow point out means output. You run the conveyor belt out so the items come out through the output. Did I mention this is an output? Yeah, the game could use some better tutorials as well, but that's unrelated. I am curious if I would be more interested in the story if it was presented better and flowed better without interruptions, but ultimately, that's how it exists, so there isn't really much point speculating. Now, don't get me wrong, the story isn't, bad. It's just pretty generic and heavily carried by having a good cast so far. Perlika's a great deuteragonist, no bias, I swear. Chen is super cute and expressive, and a certain NPC engineer is pretty funny in a lot of the scenes. So it's not all bad, but if you're looking for a strong narrative experience, probably don't look here. Just go play Genshin 6.3 or something. That quest was beautiful. Back up to a higher note now, let's talk about the world. I absolutely love how interactive it is. The world feels so alive when you're just walking around doing stuff. Your companions will spot things and walk over to them and call it out to you. There's little lore bits and files hidden around the place, and areas populated by NPCs actually feel like bustling towns and marketplaces. I definitely would call it the most immersive gacha game I've experienced. On top of that, the graphics are beautiful. I can't run super high settings because of my PC, but with my middle-of-the-line settings, I was still blown away by how nice the game looks, while still running smooth as butter. Character models are detailed, the lighting looks nice, it just kind of all comes together nicely. I've only unlocked 4 areas so far, but they're all unique and feel different as you're walking around in each one. My favorite's definitely the spaceship. It gives a Nier Automata vibe, and I love that you can run into your playable characters on it. My only complaint with the world so far is that the enemy pool in each area is the same. Either that or the enemies look so similar that it doesn't feel any different. Even if they kept the generic human enemies the same across every area, I really think they should have changed the natural wildlife enemies from area to area to better sell the fact that you're in a different place than you were before. But ultimately, this is a minor complaint that doesn't hurt the experience enough to matter to me. I mentioned being able to find lore bits as you explore, and I'm not really a big lore guy in gacha games, but from what I've picked up so far, the lore seems a lot more interesting than the story. So those of you who love delving into lore stuff, you may be into this part, but don't take my word for it because this is not really my forte. Also, I don't really know where to put this in the video because it doesn't really fit with any of the other sections, but it is so good that I had to at least mention it in this video. The UI in this game is phenomenal. Stylistically, super unique and visually amazing, but it also just makes sense. It's intuitive. I was able to familiarize myself with the game's UI and menus within a day, while Wuthering Waves took me months and I still get lost in endless menus. So yeah, I know it's not really connected to the world, but it's so good I had to give it a shout at least. Now for ultimately the most important part of a video game, the gameplay. Starting off with combat, so far I love it. You have a party of 4 and you control one of them at a time, while the other 3 automatically fight next to you, and you can swap between them at any time. Not gonna lie though, the AI is pretty stupid sometimes and gets them killed quite often, so I imagine there'll be a skill in managing the AI in the late game. But anyways, you can use a party-wide meter to command any of your characters to use their art, regardless of who you're controlling. Same thing for their ultimates, but ultimates are individual cooldowns rather than shared across the party. Every character also has a combat skill that has a unique activation criteria. It sounds like a simple system, but in practice there's a ton of cool stuff you can do with it. Trying to manage SP while maintaining statuses on enemies and buff up time, all while keeping your party healthy, is so fun to learn and honestly pretty overwhelming at first. Figuring out new combos is incredibly satisfying. Honestly, I've been loving my experience playing without a guide because every time I discover a new combo, I just feel so satisfied, and I don't think I would have had that if I followed a guide. The one major story boss that I fought so far had unique mechanics and cool attack patterns, honestly reminiscent of an MMO boss, which was pretty shocking for a gacha game. Obviously, I can't talk a ton on the combat, as I've currently only done the basic early game stuff, but so far I absolutely love it and can't wait to see how it develops into the end game. Now as for exploring, I mentioned earlier loving the world, and that ties into exploration pretty well. The map is much smaller than most open world gacha games because all the exploring is centered around creating infrastructure from your base and powering certain puzzles. This infrastructure is also the main method of transportation for everything. The game has no fancy movement options, just a simple dash and jump. Instead, you get around by establishing zip lines all around the map, and it's honestly really cool to know that every player has their own unique wiring and transportation setups. Totally new feel for an open world gacha game exploration, and I'm all here for it. On top of this, exploring also feels rewarding. I don't have a ton of context for how much I'm actually earning, because it's too early for me to determine the overall income spread. Some puzzles and fights give you multiple chests or more vibrant colored chests, and these are great visual indicators that you just did a harder puzzle and are rewarded accordingly. Honestly, the weakest part of exploring for me is the actual loop of the exploring. Most gacha games have a pretty addicting exploration loop where you can always see 1 or 2 more chests every time you get a chest, so you just keep on going and going and going, chaining chest after chest. Or they have some sort of compass that keeps pointing you onwards, but so far, Endfield has neither of these. The chests don't stick out very much visually, so it's hard to see any chests on the horizon whenever you grab one, and so far I haven't found any exploration assistance item, or even an exploration percentage tracker on my map. Maybe I'm too early game to be going hard on exploring, and I'm like missing key items that would help with it. But so far for me, it's just been kind of mindlessly wandering around and stumbling into stuff because the world is pretty densely packed with things to do. Which, don't get me wrong, is a ton of fun. I just think the game could use some improvements to the overall gameplay loop of it. Now for the main gameplay feature that sets Endfield apart from other games, the factory system. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, I'm obsessed. I have never played a factory sim before, but this game awoke something in me that I did not know existed, and now I want to learn Factorial. Now I will say, it's pretty basic. Hardcore factory sim gamers might not enjoy it for that reason, but for the average gamer who's never touched a factory sim like me, the system is like crack cocaine. Like, I spent an hour perfectly optimizing bottles and batteries. Do I know what either of them are used for? Hell no. Did I have a blast making it anyways? Hell yeah. The feeling of successfully setting up a self-sustaining base that makes useful materials is unrivaled. And then logging in the next day and your storage is filled to the brim with materials, oh my god, it's just awesome. I will say the tutorials for this portion of the game could use some work, but I opted to go tutorial-less aside from the ones the game forces you to do, and honestly I like it more this way. I'm a bit worried that the novelty of the system will wear off over time and it will just become a chore, but I hope I'm wrong because right now I'm having a blast. Even just writing down the script makes me want to go improve my factory even more. From what I've gathered, you use the factory to make bigger factories and gear. Speaking of gear, the gear is not a stat RNG thing like most other big gachas right now. I didn't bring this up earlier because I have no clue how it will feel when we get to late game, but honestly I'm pretty excited because it'll be a totally different vibe than slaving away for artifact rolls every day. Anyways, the factory system is their main draw that sets them apart from other mainstream 3D gacha, and in my opinion, they absolutely crushed it here. And I was hesitant to try this game because the idea of a factory sim is daunting to me, but I'm so glad I gave it a shot. If anyone's like me or any of the stuff I mentioned interests you, I would heavily recommend you check the game out. Now for the final part, the scariest part, the gacha. So there's a million guides out there already for this gacha. If you want an in-depth analysis, go check one of them out. But TLDR is 120 pulls to guarantee, this doesn't carry over between banners, 80 pulls for 50-50, this does carry over but there's no guarantee after losing like in other games. Pulling gives you free pulls that do not count towards pity, and free pulls for weapon banner. Characters remain in the 50-50 loss pool for the other two banners during their patch. And that's basically it. For me, this is just another Spark gacha like Blue Archiver Princess Connect. It just has the added bonus of at least one guaranteed 6-star along the way, where the aforementioned games you can go a whole 200 pulls without seeing a single rainbow recruitment. Ultimately though, I will hold back on any opinions as without the context of income, I can't really give an opinion on this. So far I've built up about a quarter of a Spark on the first day, but obviously that's heavily inflated due to launch day things. I'll give it a month or two to settle before I make any final opinions. All I will say for now is, do not pull unless you have 120 pulls. You will most likely fail and lose all of those pulls to the Cosmos, since the pity does not carry, and then you'll get mad, complain on social media, and quit the game. I know this is a lot of modern gacha players' first Spark game, so it will take some getting used to, but please, control your gambling addictions. As for monetization, I haven't really looked into it much. I won't spend money early on in a game, because I want to be certain I'll stick with it. One thing I did notice though is the Battle Pass. I think it's really cool the way they do it. There's a free pass, a Tier 1 premium, and a Tier 2 premium. The Tier 1 premium is purchased with premium currency that is primarily obtained through spending money, but can also be obtained rarely through playing the game. This tier Battle Pass also pays for itself, Fortnite style. Before logging off day 1, I had already managed to purchase the Tier 1 Battle Pass without spending a dime just off grinding. And now I'll just always make sure to keep above 29 in the currency, and now the rest of my Arknights Endfield experience will be at least at Tier 1 Premium Battle Pass, which actually offers quite a lot considering that it can be earned through playing. 6-star weapon selectors, some cosmetics, a ton of useful mats, the kind of stuff you would expect from a paid pass in other gacha games. The Tier 2 Premium costs $10 and gives you even more of the currency that you can buy the Battle Pass with, plus another 6-star selector and even more mats. Honestly, if I end up sticking with the game, I would be more than willing to buy this, especially with how generous the free one is. Final comment on monetization in gacha, it is confusing. There are a million shops and 2 million currencies, each one explained terribly. I have no clue how to get half of these currencies or what they're even used for. It's possible this is a genuine mistake, but I would wager it's intentional to get people to unknowingly waste the free premium stuff and then wail for more. This is why I didn't really discuss what else you can get with the Battle Pass currency, nor did I touch on the weapon banner at all, because I simply don't understand it. I'm choosing to not interact with most of these shops for now until I have a better understanding of everything, and I would honestly recommend you do the same. People smarter than me will eventually figure out the best way to work with this stuff and popularize it enough to make it common knowledge, and at that point I'd be more comfortable using the shops. That or they just make the explanations more clear and streamline the 9 billion currencies, which I doubt. Anyways, that's pretty much everything I have to say regarding Endfield so far. I'm having a blast and I would seriously recommend you to try it out if anything I mentioned sounds cool to you at all. There are so many small things I didn't cover, like the cool fan-made art you can unlock for getting dupes of a character, and then you can showcase it in your ship. Tons of small things like this make the game incredibly charming, and while it's certainly not perfect, I would say it's more than worth at least giving a chance. Those of you who do check it out, feel free to add me. I'm on the America/Europe server. By the way, bless the devs for merging those servers. I can finally add my online friends for once. But yeah, that's all for the video. Hope you enjoyed my breakdown of my experience so far. Let me know in the comments how it's been for you. Do you agree with my takes? Did I say anything egregiously wrong? Or did I leave out something that you liked in particular? If you want more Endfield videos in the future, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe and turn on notifications. Love y'all. Bye-bye.